And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPCast. Happy Friday, everyone. Today, joined by the gang, Josh and Erica. How are we feeling today?
I mean, I'm not sick of winning. Are you? Like, did you see what happened here?
This has been a fun week.
AOC, 2 years ago, AOC got onto the interwebs, she's talking on the socials, and she answered a question. She's like, the question was, please add your pronouns to your bio. And she apologized for not having she, her in her bio. And then what happened this week after the election? Hey-o! She removed the bios.
She removed her pronouns.
Removed the pronouns from her bio. I tell you what.
But you've
times
seen
they are a-changing.
All the speculation that she's pregnant, right?
I have seen that speculation. Yeah, I mean, who knows? But could that be
speculation that she's pregnant? And then she also put out an Instagram live video asking people what right-wing podcast they listen to. So maybe she's just in her arc here, removing the pronouns, starting to listen to some good podcasts, having children.
Maybe becoming a mother. I mean, that would be good.
Who knows? Her district has definitely shifted to the right, though. The idea here is, for so long, people Republicans can only win in rural areas and stuff like that. But it's like, look at how much the Republican Party made gains, massive gains. I mean, Donald Trump did better than any Republican in this 21st century in San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, you name it, Chicago. It's like, what is going on? It's because, you know what? Democrats have given you filthy streets and filled with crime and, total chaos. So people are like, maybe I'll vote for the evil guy that you say is the worst thing in the world.
Well, and this whole week has just felt, I think I just said this to Pogo, this whole week has just felt like a huge middle finger to the establishment left with all these appointments coming down. And it's not the best place for civil discourse to be, but it's been a little refreshing to watch these nominees come across.
Civil discourse, maybe not, but refreshing discourse for sure.
Civil discourse is overrated anyway. I mean, we live in a regime that is allowing the millions of babies to be killed, garbage, being called food, crime run rampant. Let's not report statistics on crime because that's, racist or something like that. So just people get, killed in cities like that. We're just like, oh, well, we wouldn't want to ruin decorum. Break. Now, by the way, craziness. Another thing, did you see this, Tom? Like,
Josh, before we get into
boy
that,
RFK, right?
It's okay, Josh.
Boy,
before
right?
we get into all this, wait, what? He's my boy. Yes,
he's your boy, right?
Closet. Yes. Can I say before we get into this though, briefly? Warm welcome to everyone in the chat. Happy Friday, everyone. Again, FAQ Friday. So if you guys have questions, fun questions, specific questions, political questions, mom questions, young, angry, populist questions. Those are the questions. So go ahead and leave those in the chat. I have our producer, Rosie, collecting those today. Another thing you could do to help us out, just leave a like on the episode. Helps out a ton. Really happy to be with you all on this Friday. And as Josh alluded to, I'm not in the home studio. If you can't tell, apologies for a little bit of a quality drop. I'm in the swamp. I am outside of DC today. And as Josh mentioned, I took a flight out yesterday. When I left, I thought there was more cabinet appointments to come. When I landed, RFK Jr. was tapped to head the HHS. Coincidence? I don't know. Josh, what were you saying about my boy RFK?
What does Tom Pegasic and the Democratic governor of Colorado have in common?
What do we have in common?
You both endorsed RFK for the cabinet.
Strange times make strange bedfellows.
I'm telling you, man.
Josh, did you see the before and after of it's Jared Polis, right, in Colorado? Yeah. So he tweeted something being like, so excited, this is going to be great for RFK Jr. And then I'm not exaggerating, 10 minutes later was like, oh, actually, no, this isn't good. We need to be skeptical. Did you see that?
Oh, I didn't see the recall.
Oh, so Josh, it's so good. Someone's like, I wonder who called Jared Polis and what they said, because within 15 minutes, he had to basically backtrack everything he said in the endorsement tweet. So, of course, you got to fall in line. But actually, if that's okay, I'd actually like to start out the show with some of my concerns about both the HHS nominee and the Attorney General, Matt Gaetz. Okay, so I'll start with HHS concerns. So these are all very hypothetical concerns, just things that I'm a little bit nervous about. As you know, he's kind of a conspiracy theorist and from the outside. So I'm nervous that he would force an untested novel vaccine treatment on Americans if they want to feed their families and pay for it all with their tax dollars. I'm concerned that he might lie about the origins of a major virus while simultaneously paying to fund research of said virus. But if everyone didn't believe that it was a Chinese person ate a bat, then you're a conspiracy theorist and shunned from polite society. I'm concerned that they might make up just solutions randomly for power grabs, like standing 6 feet apart and wearing masks. I'm also a little bit nervous that this nominee might shut down Catholic churches and schools and then prosecute people that disobey. I'm also a little bit nervous that 8 more boosters could follow being paid for by tax dollars, and then lie about the obvious side effects of said boosters, especially in young men, called, I don't know, like if I had to put a name on it, maybe myocarditis could be happening. Not apologize or admit any wrongdoing for any of this. And then appoint a man who thinks he's a woman to the second highest position in the HHS to push life-altering transgender procedures on our children, and then all simultaneously having raucous sex parties while the rest of the country was in lockdown. So I'm a little nervous. It's a controversial pick.
Yeah, gosh, that sounds terrible. Why would Trump nominate any person like that?
Oh, wait, that's who's
Yeah.
been ruling HHS for the last 4 years.
Oh.
Ding, ding, ding. Javier Becerra. Good.
Sorry, that was my
guy.
memory's a little bit bad. And then also with this Gaetz guy, right? Very controversial, kind of a firebrand. I have my concerns there too. Like, for example, firing every Biden member of the Department of Justice, undoing
Well,
every
he might
previous
do.
executive order, spying on Catholic churches, prosecuting people like, I don't know, peaceful protesters outside of abortion clinics, trying to throw them in jail for a decade, but not prosecuting vandals of Catholic churches because they were doing it in the name of abortion. Cover for the president's family's very lucrative corruption scheme, selling that abroad, and then raiding former president's home, and then creating made-up charges to convict said former president. So I have real concerns with both of these nominees.
But civil discourse, Pogo. We need civil discourse.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Well,
that's what Merrick Garland's been doing
That
for the
also
last
is
4
America.
years.
Okay, sorry. That was actually both Biden.
I think you're like stuck in 2021.
I must have been in that coma that
it's a
Josh
new
was
day.
in when Biden was the nominee, and then he woke up and it was Kamala Harris. So
Yeah.
real
Yeah,
concerns.
I mean, I think the Biden administration, which gave us the bald dude wearing a dress and a goofy mustache, stealing people's clothes and putting them in charge of.
It was
nuclear
Vera
stuff.
Bradley bags. I just want to be very specific. He had a fetish about Vera Bradley bags.
Okay, very
Nice.
good. Yeah,
Much
and he
more
was in
reassuring.
charge of nuclear stuff at the Department of Energy. Then you had,
Yep.
that man. Again, it's. I wish that someone would do. All these stupid studies are funded by the federal government. Here would be a funny one to finance. Like, what percentage of so-called trans men men who pretend they're women, what percentage of men who pretend they're women wear dresses as opposed to the rest of the female population? Because it's got to be like 3 or 4x. Every time some dude pretends he's a woman, he's always wearing a dress. Like that guy, Rachel Levine at at HHS. He's always wearing a dress. It's like, really?
Because that's what
Noticeably-
women always wear.
Like Hillary
Noticeably
Clinton
obese.
never wears a dress. She wears a pantsuit, but Rachel Levine's got to wear a dress every time, flowing, and high heels
but
every time.
Josh,
Okay,
Josh, to
dude,
point out-
you're a dude.
To point
Yeah,
out,
full.
Hillary Clinton actually is pretending to be a dictator like Kim Jong-un. So she has to dress for the part that she also believes she has.
She dresses like someone on the Imperial Starship. That's like scary stuff. But I think to circle back, like we just, if people are like, oh my gosh, RFK, he drops dead bears in Central Park and like has 3 wives. We have been living under a regime with like Javier Becerra. We have such short memories, but from day one, Javier Becerra has targeted not just Catholic shutting down Catholic schools in the name of social distancing, but he actually targeted Catholic hospitals and did away with the conscience protections. He, like the Obama era, he was like, bring it back full force times 10. We're going to force Catholics to perform abortions. He wanted to force emergency room doctors to perform elective abortions after Dobbs. And this man was bad news. And Catholic Vote was at the tip of the spear with this public comments on the HHS mandate with him. And hopefully we moved that needle a little bit. So I am all for RFK. I'm all for blowing it up out of the water because we've spent the last 4 years fighting for our rights under the First Amendment against Javier Becerra. So bring it on, RFK. Bring on the dead bears. I'm good. Let's just start over.
Okay, so from a political standpoint, RFK delivering Donald Trump, probably a significant number of votes that were decisive for him to win.
True.
Because if he had stayed running for president, it might have cost Donald Trump the White House. So it is only natural for Donald Trump then, out of respect, to give him the nomination of a key cabinet post. I mean, he kind of earned it. And the left is going to lose their marbles over this, and they are, because they're like, wait a minute now.
He's
Because
crazy.
the left loves the regime, loves official policies, loves, oh yeah, we have, they love the so-called meritocracy and the bureaucracy and everything about the current system that we have in this country, despite the fact there's so many flaws that are obvious. But for pro-life Catholics, our concerns are markedly different. I mean, again, I think some of the stuff that they're saying about RFK is just not true. I'm like, he's not against all vaccinations. He's against forcing vaccines on people. And some of his views on health stuff, I just disagree with. Whatever. He's one person. Yeah, he might be in charge of the cabinet if he gets confirmed, but that doesn't mean he sets all of the policies completely. It's still the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. And if he does something that goes against, where the American people super hate it, Trump can just turn and go, yeah, no, fix that. That's stupid. We're not doing that. But from the pro-life and pro-family perspective, we as Catholics, have some concerns. I mean, former Vice President Mike Pence just came out and said, and he's the kind of guy that a lot of MAGA people don't really care for. Dude. So so don't focus on him, I would say, but focus on, other questions, because you're talking about so many policies by the Department of Health and Human Services that have ramifications on the family. Is he going to repeal Biden's Title X rule involved and reinstore Trump's? So we have the normalcy, of Title X funding. Is he going to, what is he going to do on all the abortion, the HIPAA rules? Mm-hmm. What's he going to do on, implementing abortion with regards to Obamacare funding, that kind of stuff? There's a lot of these questions. They're going to, abortion drugs policies. There's a ton of these questions, and RFK is not pro-life. So it's like I guess I would recommend pro-life senators to say to the Trump administration and to say to Kennedy, listen, we have these concerns. We want to make sure, we elected a Republican pro-life president, even though he's not going to do a federal ban, so-called. We still expect pro-life policies out of this administration. And so the question is, on all these important matters of HHS, what I would like to see is RFK to say, I'm going to defer to my assistant secretary, let someone like a Roger Severino, bring him in and say, he's on all questions of abortion policy. Mm-hmm. That's going to be your guy, and he's going to take care of that. But on other stuff, I'm going to, run rampant or whatever. And that would be a huge relief. And then I think a lot of Republicans in the Senate could say, okay, yeah, I could vote for this guy because I've got these reassurances.
Yeah, I think personnel is policy, and that kind of an appointment for the abortion questions under HHS would be super important. I think something else where pro-lifers and RFK can find common ground is simply the regulation requirements of the FDA. So if you look at the history of the abortion pill, and we've covered this several times, but the mifepristone, misoprostol, the approval that got from the FDA was totally rushed, and over the course of the 20 years that it's been approved, the FDA has walked back safeguards on women there. So I think starting with something like, okay, let's require doctors and hospitals to report adverse effects of the abortion pill. I think that is something that RFK would be totally open to, given his desire for transparency. And it's something where pro-lifers could really start to make inroads into real acknowledgement of the dangers that something like the chemical abortion procedure poses to women. Something even like, okay, abortion doctors have to start reporting adverse effects of surgical abortions. Same thing. That's something where I think RFK's desire for the direction for HHS to go and pro-life concerns about saving women and saving babies can align. So I think being smart about what asks we make and smart about personnel that we put in front of him and propose to him.
Okay.
100%.
So speaking of the personnel thing, the one thing I would add on to it, one thing that we are recommending here at Catholic Vote, is that the Trump administration have some kind of a pro-life, pro-family domestic policy council in the White House, so that as these policies are being drawn up in the different agencies, that this council could say, now hold on a second here, as you're considering, fuel efficiency standards for cars, but like don't make it illegal to have a car that would be able to have a lot of kids in it. We've seen so many absurd things where it's like now you can't get a station wagon or you can't even get a light truck.
Right.
These fuel efficiency standards are written in such a way that it create perverse incentives. And so if you're a family, you need to buy like a massive van or Suburban, when in fact a grocery getter or station wagon would have been just fine, but it's been made illegal. So we need personnel is policy. You're absolutely right, Erica. We need a pro-life, pro-family council on domestic policy right at the White House, making sure all these different agencies are getting in line.
Well, and who better to head that than JD Vance? Like, make your vice president the family policy czar, right? We've got a border czar. I'm very happy with Homan. He looks like a bulldog, acts like a bulldog. He's great. And JD Vance is like the family policy guy. So put him in charge. Get people in there from Ethics and Public Policy Center, from Heritage. Get people in there who've thought about this deeply. And I think it's very exciting what the possibilities are. And I'm glad Catholic Vote has a way to press on that. Love it. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, and so RFK and Gaetz, I think, fall in this category of, I think someone asked, okay, are they going to get confirmed? Are they going to get through? Of course, they're big time splashy picks. But to me, a few things come to mind. One, Trump won both the electoral and popular vote. Republicans won both the House and the Senate. Clearly, the American people have spoken and sent this administration in to accomplish the promises of the Trump administration. And I think back to 2016 and some of his cabinet picks, that I think the way that he thought about it at the time, of course, first-time president, was, okay, I'm going to put in people who are like kind of experts, or maybe like they're not as ready really to like go to bat. And this time, I think Trump learning his lesson, saying, hey, I'm here to do the job the American people have sent me to do. I'm going to be appointing people that are here to accomplish that mission. And for a Republican, I think it's a great loyalty test for Republicans of like, okay, I put these people up. They're going to follow through on what I've campaigned on. If you're against that, get out of the way. Like it's not up to you really whether or not you say, maybe yes, maybe no. The American people wanted Trump. Trump wants to execute his agenda. He feels these people are the best. I think they need to go through. And on the RFK front,
we have the constitutional order.
Josh.
We have the constitutional system here. Senators are tasked with the job of advising and consenting and confirming nominees or rejecting them if they think they're just too far or too much or too off. And, those if Republican senators decide to shoot down, let's say, Gaetz' nomination or Kennedy's, they're going to have to go before the voters, and the voters will decide whether or not they want to primary them over these, things. If, again, the Senate might just say, maybe RFK squeaks by, or maybe he loses. I don't know. Gaetz is going to be a definite uphill climb.
Yeah.
And let's say the Senate rejects him. Well, then Trump could turn around the next day and just appoint him acting attorney general, and he can serve in that capacity for at least 2 years. So, or he waits till a recess appointment, which there hasn't been an opportunity for a recess appointment in a while. But
back on a more philosophical point for these people kind of hemming and hawing, I think and maybe angry populist Tom comes out again, but I'm tired of Republicans basically being like, okay, we did our job, clap, clap, clap. I'm going to go back to my lobbyist dinners, business as usual. Like all of what I started this podcast with, I'm almost not even exaggerating. Pretty much every health expert advice has been pretty much wrong for the last 50 years. I mean, clearly we are the most obese, most diseased, the most chronic illness we've ever seen, autism through the roof. And yet we're told we live in the safest, healthiest, most advanced society of all time. And something is not adding up. At a base, I want transparency and accountability within our government regulatory agencies. They've failed that so many times, got so drunk on lack of accountability that they felt, I mean, the greatest example of this is like, they told the American people that the COVID origins didn't come from the U.S. government funded Wuhan COVID lab in China, in the same town. No, you had to believe that it was a bat, that someone ate in a wet market, which is kind of like racist to think about. Like to think that that theory was put forward that Chinese people are eating bats.
It's racist. You're just looking down upon
Batsist.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to say. But
yeah,
that,
I mean,
that to me is the greatest example. And so if nothing changes, so if to me, I'm frustrated if these senators are going to be, meh, we don't want real change. No, I voted for Trump for real change, specifically when it comes to health. I'm tired of crap being in my foods. I'm tired of the vaccine schedule being outrageous and there not being proper safety testing on things. Like people are really tired. Like I think he appeals so much to someone my age because we've come up in an age where a lot of these lies have been exposed and I'm having to make real decisions about the safety of my own family, what food that I buy, what vaccinations I decide to get or not get for my children. And when I came of age, I was literally forced, if I wanted to be gainfully employed, to put something in my arm that had not been properly tested. I mean, I can't think of a more like drunk on power situation, specifically from our health executives. So guess what? You get what you deserve. You get RFK Jr., who maybe some people are going to say crazy, but I'm here for extreme solutions. Look, nothing could possibly be worse than the last 4 years.
The Beltway doesn't understand. Like, first of all, if I would have had the call on this, I might have said, well, why don't you have him in charge of the USDA? I would have been happier with that. You know, like in charge of FDA or Food and Drug, something like that, rather than the entire HHS. That would have been my preference, but whatever. As long as we get pro-life assurances. But my point is, what's so funny is to hear everyone inside the regime, inside the system, wailing and gnashing of their teeth, and then they turn around and expect us to go, "Oh gosh, did we do something wrong that made you so upset? Maybe we should change our ways." And I'm like,
right.
To your point, like, oh wait, are you totally crapping the bed over this? Sounds like it's a pretty good idea then, because actually you need. Everywhere in the entire country has had chaos and disruption for the last 15, 20 years. Everything, fentanyl all over our country, the immigration, chaos, in these cities, crime everywhere. And everywhere, the one place everything is nice and cushy is inside the Beltway. We're the most recession-proof town you've ever met. That they're always building buildings in that damn town. And so, the fact that you're getting a little discomfort right now sounds wonderful. In fact, I got to give credit to Walter Kearney's, the guy who runs the country city newspaper thing. He goes, Trump is like a Navy icebreaker who used his tonnage and momentum and his willingness to employ blunt force to channel through a frozen sea. It wasn't always a pretty process. Lots of crunching, lots of cracking, but the way is open now and other ships can follow.
Amen to that.
Preach it.
Anything further on Gaetz? So the interesting thing on the Gaetz thing is, so he's currently in Florida, or he just stepped down, or so what's
he just resigned.
So this is crazy. I mean, normally when somebody in the House gets a nomination for a cabinet post, he waits until the Senate confirms him, and then he resigns his seat. But the concern there would be, well, wait a minute now, you're going to have the new Congress, the majority is even slimmer. And so you're going to have this situation where for a good 3-4 months, as Republicans are trying to pass this agenda, you've just made it so much more narrow. So he's like, he actually already resigned. Right. And so did the guy going up for National Security Advisor, Waltz, not Tim Walz, Waltz.
Waltz.
And so both those guys are from Florida, and Governor DeSantis is already starting the clock on replacing them. And so there are two replacements for those seats. They're going to have special elections, and they will be sworn in probably a day or two, or maybe even the same day the rest of the new Congress gets sworn in. So there won't be a disruption there, thankfully. But yeah, it is kind of unusual. I mean, with Gaetz, you know, again, people like the fact, again, what I just talked about, the sort of smash mouth iconoclasm. We need a lot of that in ossified Beltway, Washington, which, everything's cushy and comfortable for them. We need someone who's going to go in there and break stuff up. And so, in that sense, if everyone is horrified by Matt Gaetz, MAGA voters are like, sounds great to me. And I
Right.
understand that. I mean, my concern is, I'm no fan of Kevin McCarthy, the former House Speaker, but like when Gaetz, said, no, I'm pulling the plug and blowing things up, and we have, everything shut down in Washington for like 3 weeks until we could elect a new speaker. I thought that was a lot of chaos. It turned out to be okay in the end. And I do like Mike Johnson, the current speaker, but then there was even thoughts after this election, maybe we should open this fight up again. And I thought to myself, the majority is even slimmer. Like, you're
Yeah.
really going to blow this up? Like,
Because
what would
he
happen
took
if
out
we didn't
Elise
have a House
Stefanik
Speaker at
too.
the beginning
Right.
on January 3rd? You
Mhm.
can't count the votes for the presidency. So Trump can't be sworn in on the 20th if you wait 3-4 weeks to figure out who you want as a new speaker. It would have been absolute bedlam, total chaos. And so I think to myself, if you're House Speaker Johnson, and you're like,
Mhm.
wait, Gaetz just resigned. You just got a new rule in effect so that one member of the House can't pull the plug and call to vacate the chair. Now you need 9, and he got reelected unanimously by the House Republicans. He's like thinking, yeah, dude, best week
This is
ever.
nice. Well, and Trump was very complimentary of him when he showed up at the House yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah,
He was very
Wednesday. That's why.
complimentary. Yeah. Yep. And it's
He's like,
a
if I
little
don't have a
stability
speaker,
there
I'm not
sounds good.
president.
Right.
Can I ask
Simple as that.
specifically on Gaetz stepping down? So, for example, what if he goes up for nomination then doesn't get nominated? Does he's no longer
He's not in
Congressman from
Congress
Florida?
anymore, period.
Right.
So the choice that Trump would have is he could decide to name him as acting attorney general while he puts forward a nomination for someone else. That's a possibility. And so then maybe Gaetz is attorney general for, a couple of months and cleans up a few things or
He
whatever.
would clean up a few things in a couple of months. He loves to blow stuff up. He's totally. Who's that character in Looney Tunes who's always blowing up dynamite? Was that one?
And I see, since it's
Wile E. Coyote.
Ask Friday, someone in the chat, Lara Trump's
FAQ
name being
Friday.
thrown around. I mean, what kind of gets me upset about this is like, she was literally thrown out as a possibility of running for that Senate seat in North Carolina like 10 minutes ago. And so now she's thinking about Florida because she moved there in the last year. It's like,
oh, Lara Trump?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think she's done a pretty good job at the Republican National Committee. Why would she want to leave? But that Senate seat, you know what? Honestly, I think so. This is what happened is Trump nominated Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. And if Rubio gets confirmed, as I suspect he will, then there's a vacancy in that Senate seat, and Governor Ron DeSantis would have the ability to appoint someone to fill that seat until the next election, which would be in November of 26. What I actually would hope to happen is nothing against Lara Trump, okay? Nothing. But if she wants to get a Senate seat, I think she should run on her own. Otherwise, people say, oh, Nepo baby, she was gifted a seat. I don't like that. Earn it on your own merits. I get nothing against it. But
yeah, don't be a Kamala.
What I'd like to see happen is Ron DeSantis pick his chief of staff, James Althmeyer, if I butchered his name, but he was the architect behind the successful campaign to stop the pro-abortion Amendment 4. That guy is a rock star, and I'd love to see him in the Senate. He'd be a great placeholder. He could do a great job in those 2 years, and then Ron DeSantis would make the decision probably and run for Senate himself, and then that would make it that much easier for J.D. Vance to run for president in 2028 because DeSantis would have just got elected to the Senate, and I doubt he would turn right around and immediately run for president. I think that would be the best case scenario. Nothing against Lara Trump, but I think that would be better.
Josh's deep cuts.
Preach.
Okay, on to the next story. So, I believe this was a Free Press article, but we eventually wrote it up. Essentially, the 94-year-old Marion Thompson, founder of La Leche League, an international support group for breastfeeding mothers, has resigned from the organization's board over its inclusion of men in its position that they have the ability to breastfeed, chest feed, as it's known these days. Quote, the shift from following the norms of nature, which the core of mothering through breastfeeding, to indulging the fantasies of adults is destroying our organization. That's quite the quote from the CEO. Erica, any thoughts on this?
That. I do have thoughts on breastfeeding and chest feeding. It's what I do. Yeah. So, I mean, a few things. This has been an ongoing sort of rebellion from founders and supporters over the past year. So, I think this was the most recent iteration. This week, we had this resignation from one of the founders. Back in the spring, we had an article in the Free Press that you referenced by Bethany Mandel, who was also involved in La Leche League. And look, La Leche League was founded by Catholic women at a time when women were actually being discouraged from breastfeeding their children. Actively discouraged. And this group of women get together and they're like, this is wrong. It's not good for mothers. It's not good for babies. This is how God designed our bodies. It's a very sacramental approach. They aren't explicitly Catholic at this point. They weren't. But it's founded on a Catholic anthropology of what's best for women and their babies. And they're like, look, women don't need to be discouraged from breastfeeding. Look, okay, and for any guys listening, if you have a wife, you know this. Breastfeeding is hard. It's very natural, but it's very hard. It's not like enjoyable. These guys who want to chest feed their babies, I'm like, guys, pick something else. This is not the best, greatest, most wonderful feeling feminine thing to do. But apparently they are sadomasochistic and love pain.
Yeah, I don't get that. Like if something had tragically happened to my wife and I had my young child, I would not put on this weird apparatus. What a stupid thing. Like,
well, because Josh, it wouldn't work. There's no nutritional value. It's literally poison. This is why the whole thing is so crazy.
The whole point of it is like, it's just, again, it gets the whole transgender stuff and like two gays raising a kid. It's like, it's all cosplay. Stop it. Like, there are differences between men and women.
And this is why, again, the people mad about RFK Jr. can all legitimately go pound sand. We had the second highest person in charge of health in the country was a man pretending they're a woman, would be all on board with chest feeding.
Right. It's mental illness. And I think like what Bethany Mandel was pointing out in her article in the Free Press was like, when you're in these La Leche League groups and in comes a man who thinks he's a woman or a man who's just like weird, like
or gays.
You have your breasts out in
men, period.
Like they're out. They're exposed. And to have men in these spaces is weird and in some cases threatening to women who are already doing a really hard thing and came here for support. And then you look at the website of La Leche League and it's really funny. I was digging around it yesterday to prepare for this. In some of the pages, it's still like mothers, breastfeeding, bonding with your child. Some of it's they haven't cleaned it all up yet. But other pages are like, our mission is to help parents breastfeed, chest feed, or human milk feed their babies. So they're also talking about people who want to purchase other women's breast milk to feed to their babies through some weird apparatus so they can feel like it's them breastfeeding, chest feeding, and human milk feeding. And they changed like their book title from The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding to The Art of Breastfeeding, erasing women. So literally their website is progressively and slowly erasing mention of women, of breasts, of mothers. And I hand it to the founder. This must be so tragic and painful for her to watch this incredible organization that it in some ways single-handedly turned around that trend of discouraging women from breastfeeding in the United States to be now it's the norm to breastfeed. Like that's what you're encouraged to do when you're in the hospital, as then the recognition scientifically based that this is better for the baby. It's the taking down of organization through this woke ideology. And I just,
Erica,
I feel
I
94 years old.
Someone in the chat.
Yeah, let's do it.
Can we appoint a new vocabulary czar? Get rid of some of these ridiculous words.
I'm
like
here for it.
Feeding.
Trump, I'm available. I'm available to be your vocabulary czar. Donald Trump, this is me.
You'd be the shortest czar in hundreds of years.
Well, since Napoleon.
Erica, can I ask you then more a person, because I think you did a great job like laying out the academic and the news element of the story. But like even just hearing you kind of say words of like, they're just subtly changing feminine words, not changing, just removing them entirely from something that is so obviously a feminine process, like a feminine experience.
Right.
How does that make you feel on a personal level as a mother watching something like this happen?
Um, nauseous and like disgusted. And again, like the people doing this tend to be either women who've been abused by men in their lives or men coming in and being like mansplaining to us about how, well, now you have to include men in your spaces. And it makes me angry, honestly. But I'm a more of a choleric personality female. So I think some women, it's just devastating and depressing. For me, I just get mad. And I'm like, these people need to, well, I
I
also
hear you.
shouldn't use the
I hear
words
you.
that I'm thinking right now. But personally, I just get really angry. Yeah.
Do you know that the name of the competitor organization, not competitor now, but like some of the original members moved and founded a more of a Christian version of this La Leche League? I forget. She listens to the show, or she did at one point. She emailed me, and I should have had this on hand.
I
But
mean,
I
of
didn't know
course,
if you knew.
obviously, La Leche was a Christian organization that now no longer is, right?
Right.
Yeah, no
They
question.
broke
Yeah,
up
and
and
someone
started a
in the
new one.
chat saying La Leche League's always been radical. They advocate the family bed breastfeeding. I mean, I think that might be individual iterations of La Leche League because the way they work are, chapters around the country. Um, uh, attachment parenting. I don't know if that was officially La Leche League, but send me resources if you have links. That would be great.
I'm with Liz
Send
Parker
them
in the
over.
chat, though. Just the word chest feeding makes me cringe. I mean,
I
first of
know.
all, by the way, I mean, the word breast, I mean, men
What's
have
wrong
breasts
with that
too, just we
word?
don't have milk. I mean,
Right.
like, it's not like it's a different part. It's just
I call
functionally
them the
very
useless
different.
nipples.
Why do you have to say chest? They're like, what? You don't milk a
Like,
chest. This
why
doesn't
did
make
God
any
even
sense.
give men nipples? There's nothing there. Like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's the dumbest thing ever.
Yep. Dumbest thing
Okay,
ever.
on to
Like Robert
the
De
You
next
Niro. Oh my
don't
God.
want someone chomping on them. I just
Too
want
much
to put
nipple
this out.
talk. We got to go to the next story. Too much nipple talk.
Oh, it's Pogo
Jeez, this can go off the
uncomfortable.
rails. No.
FAQ
The funny thing
Friday.
that comes to mind with this, and I'll drop this bomb before we move on. Someone photoshopped a picture of Nick Jonas on the beach having like huge nipples, and then everyone thought it was real, and then they're just like, "Oh, he has huge nipples." So that's always comes to mind, which is just
That's
terrible. I
gross.
feel bad for our boy
Where did
Nick.
you go with
'cause-
that? Come on, dude.
Why did that?
I don't know.
Why did you say that?
You were like trying to tad the brakes on us, and you went
All right,
completely gross.
breaks tapped.
Okay,
breaks
moving
tapped.
on to the next devout
People that know,
Catholic.
they know. Okay, so the next one, devout Catholic worker fired for not giving COVID shot wins over $12 million in religious discrimination suit. This is huge.
Love it.
So this is actually from Josh and I's neck of the woods. This is Michigan. Lisa Domsky, she was an IT specialist for Blue Cross Blue Shield in Michigan. Now, what made this story even funnier to me is she was an IT specialist. She already was basically working remote, I think 3/4 of the time. And then they were like, okay, we're going to move you full remote during COVID. She's like, great. They're like, hey, everyone needs to get a COVID shot, even if you're remote. Like, what are you talking about? She, on religious exemption, applied and said, hey, I'm not going to get this, and actually referred people to her priest. Said, hey, here's my priest. Go talk to him. Like, I'm not going to get the shot. Sure enough, she got fired. Not only did she get $12 million, she got back pay, so all the time that she would have been employed, and forward pay.
Right.
This is the first of a couple really big landmark suits like this after the whole fever dream that was COVID and the crazy draconian nature of it. But I saw this devout Catholic woman, wanted to give her a shout out. Really cool story. Good for her for standing her ground. And I think it's honestly important for people to, clearly some people are not learning their lesson. And so, of course, you don't want to get into unnecessary lawsuits, but this is to prove a point, right? If no one punishes people who made these decisions, they're just going to keep happening. So good on Lisa for doing that. Any thoughts in general?
Yeah, and taking on civil suits like this is a huge decision because even if you know you have a really good shot at winning, it's a long legal battle and it's exhausting. It can drain your family life. And so her decision to take this stand and to run it through the courts and set this precedent for other cases, again, good on her. That is a lot of cash right there. But again, she's among, I think the number is 250 other people around this country who were fired after asking for religious exemption. So her willingness to go through this trial, literally and figuratively, metaphorically, sets a great precedent for others and sends a warning shot. Next time, Let's remember the First Amendment before we make our remote workers take a shot to protect other workers from
Yeah,
it.
it's just absolute insanity. And again, it was Biden's Department of Labor that wanted to, force everyone
Yep.
working in the entire country to get the shot. I mean, just absolute insanity.
Yep.
Yeah. It's good for her. On the next one. So you guys, we got a lot of Catholics in this audience. You're familiar with the concept of Meatless Fridays, correct?
Oh, yes.
So I'm happy to announce that Meatless Fridays are making a bit of a comeback. The Jesuits have caught wind of it at this point. So I'm going to read a couple sentences here and may have come to it from different conclusions. This is Archbishop Gudziak.
Well, just to set up, the bishops are in their meeting right now. They're like their big USCCB gathering. So that's the context for this conversation. All right, just want to set the context for everyone. Like,
thank you for the context.
You're welcome.
So he made a strangely traditional suggestion that bishops should consider restoring the church's tradition of abstaining from meat on Fridays, which was no longer obligatory after the reforms following the Second Vatican Council. Noting that scholars have, quote, calculated the environmental benefits are significant, Archbishop said that the return to this practice of abstaining from meat on Fridays would be good for the soul and the planet and would help in uniting our devotion to the Lord and reverence for the Lord's creation. He added that fasting could be an opportunity for synodal engagement and exploring ancient practices in the Latin Rite, such as Ember Days and Advent fasts and other rich Eastern Christian practices among Catholics and others. We're back.
Okay, so Ember Days are great and Meatless Fridays are great, but you're just giving me the freaking worst reasons to embrace this. So I'm going to go have a hamburger for lunch. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. For the planet's going to be fine. I hate this stuff.
But
stop talking about the planet like it's a Christmas ornament. It's going to get shattered. Give me a break. We're talking about Earth. It is not fragile. My goodness, people are bonkers.
This is insane.
You're not sounding very synodal right now, Josh.
Yeah. Suddenly, the synodal Jesuits the synodaling Jesuits are interested in ancient practices in the Latin Rite after they have spent the last 13 years persecuting the Latin Mass. Now they're like, wait, Mother Earth, Gaia, the Pachamama.
See, you bring up a good point, Erica. Maybe we could find a way to do like a carbon score on the Latin Mass and find out that it's better for the Earth somehow, and then maybe Pope Francis will give the green light on it.
Wait a second.
If Latin masters start not using air conditioning in the summer or heat in the winter and save the climate in that way, can they have mass?
We got to find a green ecological reason to burn the incense or something.
To be fair, though, for anyone that has gone to a Latin Mass in an actual cathedral, it's always freezing in the winter or scorching hot in the summer. It's impossible to possibly heat and cool those places properly in the same way that the cushy modern churches are. We are synoodling right now. The chat has found out that we need to keep using that word. I think it's Erica trademark, synoodling.
It is. I TM'd it.
Well, the synod thing, if we actually wanted to have a true synod where we actually asked, like, where priests and bishops would say, hey, we've had a decline in the number of people that go to Mass on a regular basis. We're having to close parishes and close schools. What could we do, to maybe turn things around? And I just think about that one meme where the cartoon, the guy's like, well, why don't you just, do the obvious thing, which would be return to orthodoxy. And they show him in the cartoon being thrown out the window. Like, you can't say that. No.
Oh my goodness. No, this is great. Okay. Hey, go ahead. Go ahead, Pogo.
I was just going to say, it's great to make fun of how stupid these reasonings are to get back to like a cool church tradition because they deserve being made fun of. It reminds me of the recent push for women priests, and it's like they want women priests for all the wrong reasons. Like there are actually legitimate liturgical arguments for this, but it should not because of women's empowerment and feminism and this and that. It should be based on actual like history, dogma, scripture. Of course, those are not what's being talked about here. And in the same way, we're taking this like very recent modern phenomenon of human climate change, which actually is kind of like the modern dogma that you can't speak against, and then trying to like cherry pick. It's so funny they even brought up the Latin Rite. They hate the Latin Rite. I mean, this is literally the ire of the modern regime right now in the Catholic Church.
The ancient Latin, right?
That all being said, let's put that all to the side. Erica, do you practice Meatless Fridays?
We do, except for Bacon Fridays when there's a solemnity, which is super fun. But
There
yeah,
you
we
go.
do Meatless Fridays.
But for people in the chat, either in the chat, yes or no, do you practice Meatless Fridays? And then Erica, why do you do that? What's like the proper reasoning behind why people, not because they want to save the planet, want to have less carbon or whatever, but why do they actually do it? Why should you do it?
Yeah, I mean, until recently, that was sort of the de facto penance for Friday. So Friday, of course, is the day of the week when we remember specifically the passion of our Lord Jesus Christ. And we find ways as Catholics to unite our suffering and take on additional penance on Fridays. And until recently in the United States, the de facto, the fallback was you don't eat meat on Friday as a sacrifice. There are other ways to make sacrifices on Fridays, of course. In our family, we do that, and partially just out of what was not synodality, but solidarity, which is the actual Catholic social justice principle. Solidarity with Catholics who went before us in centuries past, to help my kids kind of feel like, okay, we're connecting with all Catholics over the centuries who practiced this tradition as well. So for us, it's that. Other people do like an extra rosary decade on Fridays, or try and go to mass every Friday, make sacrifices in other ways. But Meatless Fridays, sort of, that's what the Catholics do. Except Josh. I'm teasing you. We love you. He's very penitential, though. Josh is he won't tell you because he won't brag about it, but he's a very penitential person.
Well, doing a podcast with Pogasic is pretty fun.
That's 3 days a week, too. I mean, what?
Dang it. Sometimes I just know it's coming. I got to let it hit. I'm just,
yeah. But can I just make one more point about this, too? I think that it's this whole thing of like, oh my gosh, Meatless Fridays. And what was the quote? Uniting our devotion to the Lord. I'm glad they have some, with reverence for the Lord's creation. It's so dumb to have to, the way that they articulate it is, oh my gosh, this added benefit of we can have reverence for creation, which is our priority. Oh, and we can reverence our Lord. Guys, this is what Catholic culture does naturally, right? If you are practicing the liturgical year, if you are practicing the seasons of fasting and feasting for the church, if you're practicing the church teaching on human sexuality in your marriage and following either NFP and reverencing the way our bodies work with sexuality and practicing chastity, you are reverencing God's creation, right? And so this whole sense of somehow we have to add on devotion to our Lord to save the climate secular talk, it's just missing that if you practice the Catholic faith, if you practice the morality of the Catholic Church, you practice solidarity, you practice moderation and fasting the way the Church has laid it out for us for 2,000 years, we would be honoring our planet. We would have a human ecology and a human anthropology and a way of life that respects the planet.
I know, but see, what I hate about modern life so much is that people are just lack imagination and lack the ability. So like RFK Jr. was not a natural ally for Catholic vote, but we thought there's an opportunity here. We could try to speak to him with his Catholic faith and try to win over voters and make America healthy again and all that kind of stuff. Think anew. Right? So all these eco types are like, oh, we need to people eat less meats. Let's dedicate a day of the week where we'll encourage people to eat less meat. So Paul McCartney, the halfway
Beatles?
Decent music guy in the Beatles there, he decides to form an organization called Meat Free Monday.
Like,
bro, like, what is your deal? Like, just latch on to Friday. Like, you have, I don't know, 1 billion Catholics in the world who are already supposed to be doing this. Like, it's just,
Josh, but you're speaking to the fact that the current climate change dogma is religious in nature.
Of course,
like
they need their
that
own
they would
feast days.
literally they have to make a penitential act a day of the week to suffice to the dogma. I mean, that to me is the biggest problem with all of this, is that what they're suggesting here, what the Vatican's suggesting here, is not coming from true religion, as in the true Holy Catholic Church. It's coming from
tell you,
more closely to the second.
The motives are
Our
important.
church has asked us to give up meat on Fridays. It's obligatory in Lent, obviously, and then year round they've asked us to do it as well, or substitute another penance. And I'm going to make the effort to try to do that on Fridays. It's hard. I love meat, and like the people who
Me
are
too.
vegetarians for health reasons, I totally understand it. People who decide to give up meat for any other reason other than health reasons, I'm always like, what? Like, I'm
You
telling
what?
you, I would never give up meat
Yeah.
voluntarily, ever. I hate fish.
Can I
Okay,
show you?
except for fillet
This
of
is my
fish.
bedside reading. I keep it
I'm-
by my LOOPCast all
Yeah,
the time.
bacon is okay. It's still
My
not as good as
cookbook.
sausage. But here's the thing: like, it would take literally Jesus Christ or His Blessed Mother saying, "Josh, could you give up meat?" And I'm still. Would I say yes? I wouldn't say no, but I'd be like, "Can we negotiate a little bit here?" I mean,
Part of the deal.
yeah. I'm like, every
Purgatory's
day,
gonna be
every
fun.
meal, really,
I hope
ever?
I'm in purgatory with Josh. Like, I just want to be there, burning alongside, and just listening to him negotiate.
I would never.
Yeah.
This is my encouragement to young people: don't ever date someone who's not Catholic or a vegetarian. I'm gonna tell you, every meal ever. Nah.
I have to say that the chat has responded in force. I'm seeing
Yeah.
names here that I have never seen, I think, in the chat. We have a lot of people offering penance on Fridays by not eating meat. And that's very inspirational to me. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next section, because RFK Jr. is my boy, he's like the biggest environmentalist of all time. And all these libs
Well,
now
it's
are
kind of
mad.
wacky too.
He's a little wacky, but he was the one going after the EPA and everything like that. Like, he is an environmentalist. And they're like, but not like that. We don't like those type of environmentalists, like whatever. Anyway, FAQ Friday. We got one question up top for Erica, which I thought was candidly adorable. Hi, all. I love the podcast. Toward the beginning of 2024, Erica recalled the time when she confronted someone at Mass about handling the Eucharist inappropriately. If I remember correctly, Erica commented that she felt a little awkward and nervous when approaching this person. I thought about the story quite a bit over the following months. Then, this past summer, of course, God gave me the opportunity to speak up in a similar situation. I was so nervous to say something, and I too felt it was so awkward. I don't think I would have had the courage to speak out if I hadn't heard Erica talk about her experience. So, although I felt nervous and awkward, I was glad I prevented a woman from bringing the Eucharist to her pew and leaving it there. Good for you.
That's awesome.
Now, on to the question I have about classical education. I grew up going to public school and later went on to become a veterinarian. I spent many years in school, and yet I still feel like I don't know anything outside of my trade. I truly don't think I learned anything in my high school and college courses related to writing, English, history, philosophy, etc. My husband and I are planning to homeschool our children, and when old enough, with the classical education model. But I feel overwhelmed because I feel like I was never taught how to learn. I can memorize and regurgitate information, though. Any recommendations on how I can prepare? Any books you'd recommend reading? Thanks so much, Allison.
Wow.
Shout out to Allison.
All right, Allison. I love it. It's great. Great question. So, places to start. I would actually recommend, if your children are young and you're looking at a 2 to 3 year on ramp here, I would actually start with just learning to read yourself for your own edification. So, a couple of places to start. We really should start getting paid for these. Hello, Hillsdale College online courses, but they have a great literature section. So I would just pick one that sounds interesting to you, and they're free. You can walk through them. You can quiz yourself after each lecture, and they're really good with literature. Oh, there goes my baby. They're really good with literature. So I would recommend doing that, or find a well-read mom group near you who are reading hard books, and they're so non-judgmental, and like you just go in and where you're at, and it's a good group of accountability of women reading hard things together. So that's where I would start if you have a good on-ramp. In terms of direct, like actual how to educate your children classically, my favorites are Designing Your Own Classical Curriculum by Laura Berquist. She's the founder of Mother of Divine Grace school. Mother of Divine Grace has a great offering too for parents who have never classically educated their parents. They have parent classes that you can sign up for to like get your feet wet a little bit. They have consultants, so that's a great resource there. Another book that I loved, especially if your children are super small right now, it's called Real Learning in the Heart of My Home by Elizabeth Foss, Foss. And I'll make sure we get that into the show notes for you. Oh, Landscape with Dragons. Don't get me started on that. Who's that in the chat? Stacy. Ooh, that's a whole nother episode. I have thoughts on Michael O'Brien. But anyway.
Good thoughts,
I
bad
won't go
thoughts?
into them now.
Are you gonna tease?
I'm not even gonna I'm not nope.
Oh.
Nope. Make a note. Erica needs to write an article about Landscape
So also,
with Dragons.
for the record, while Erica was detailing how to intellectually guide your children and inform them, Josh is arguing with people in the chats about fish tacos right now. I think basically
I love fish tacos, but I'd rather have red meat tacos.
And that is the duality of the Loopcast. Where else can you get classical education talk and Josh arguing about food in the comments simultaneously? I'd argue nowhere else. There's no other show like
it. Niche.
I
love it.
I aim to please.
If you appreciate what we do, appreciate you guys subscribing, leave us a review, especially Apple Podcasts and Spotify where you can see them, helps out a ton. If you want to email me more questions, loopcast@catholicvote.org. We'll always love getting those. Okay, let's see. Do we have any other questions? I think we got one more before we go to the Twilight Zone. Actually, no, two, because this is actually a great question. When should people start listening to Christmas music / put up decorations, etc.? Thoughts?
You go first, Mercer.
Josh, you got strong ones?
Well, I'm a traditional American, so I don't start any music Christmas related until the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's a respectful one. Okay, Erica, are you going to disagree with that? Or
yeah, I'm a total elitist East Coaster Catholic, and so I don't start Christmas music. So, okay, I've gotten more relaxed as I've gotten older with my kids, but I don't start Christmas music in general till like Gaudete Sunday or the O Antiphons, December 17th. So we try to be a little more liturgical here. That doesn't mean that nothing sneaks in under the radar with the Christmas music, but we do Advent pretty intensely here. So we decorate for Advent. Like we get out the nativity set around St. Nicholas Day. We've got the purple. We've got the bear Christmas tree. We've got Jesse trees. So yeah, we really try and hold back until
this is where I'm more American than you're saying than Catholic, right? I mean, because
you're an American Catholic. I'm a Catholic American.
In December, but then when the radio turns it off on December 26th, I'm still listening to it, and I keep up my Christmas tree liturgically until Super Bowl Sunday. That's how it's meant to be.
Yeah, but Josh, that's got to be out of laziness rather than reverence, correct?
No. Laziness? Give me a break. January and February are drab. You need color and light. The people that take down their trees and the lights, and I'm like, what are you talking about? It's beautiful. Keep it up, dude. Come on.
Yeah, we keep them up till Epiphany or baptism of the Lord sometimes.
To prepare people, do you have any overrated Christmas albums / songs and underrated Christmas albums / songs you could put people onto?
Every Christmas song that's popular on the radio in the last 25 years is overrated, obviously. 100%. You know, that Mariah Carey garbage. Ugh. So I basically listen to, you call me a boomer, I don't care. I listen to all those best Christmas songs from the 50s and 60s and 70s. Erica can be the good Catholic and listen to liturgical music. I'm listening to Dino rip it out. I love it. I don't care.
We do a lot of Handel's Messiah for Advent. It's a banger. What can I say? It's 500 years
She's
old.
got to impress people with this. I'm not. Come on. I'm listening to Perry Como just like everyone else is, and we got to pretend like we're not. Give me a break.
I love my favorite. Okay, best Christmas album of all time is The Chieftains, Bells of Dublin. Yeah. It's totally, what's it called? A banger. It's a banger.
We need to teach you some more terms for music other than banger.
But everyone should watch The Loop. Everyone should be watching announcements of amazing Advent and Christmas tips coming up. So just keep your eyes peeled because the lifestyle section is about to get crazy and you're going to have more ideas than you know what to do.
We're going to take it up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd say I'd plug Sinatra. Someone brought up Sinatra. I do enjoy Sinatra Christmas, but there's this guy named Teddy Swims, and his Christmas album is fire. It's
all right.
It's really good. That's like a underrated, slept on. Not many people know about it. It's phenomenal. It's like
one of the things I do like. I mean, this is so second nature to you, Tom, because you're like 10 minutes old. But like for us old Dodgers or whatever, like. You'd have to listen to the radio and wait for them to play a song or buy like tons of records. I hated that, but now.
And then it would just be like Wham! Christmas.
I can just go to YouTube or Pandora and just listen to playlists. And so I just give me those crooner Christmas songs all day. Let's go.
You look like a
Bells of
Pandora
Dublin.
guy.
Look, we have fans. We have fans in the chat. Yeah, chieftains.
Josh, you look like a Pandora guy, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, my kids know it. Like, oh, here comes Christmas time is different, but like if they start hearing the outlaw country, Dad's working on some project in the house, you know.
You look like a Pandora guy that doesn't pay for premium, so you get hit with ads. Is this true?
Of course, dude.
Oh yeah, dude. I got you down to a science, Josh. When the ad has to come on.
I saw this thing on the internet, like, what kind of Catholic are you? And like, are you a Latin Rite, or John Paul II Novus Ordo, hoping that things will get better? And they ask you all these different questions, and mine was like such a bullseye, like Reagan, John Paul, K-Cup. Yeah, you got me, buddy.
Josh is a K-Cup Catholic. That's a great. I'm keeping that one in the back. I remember just being disgusted with you. Your coffee habits are disgusting.
They are disgusting.
This is the thing. This is why you maybe don't understand RFK Jr., right? If you guys aren't doing pour-over coffee yet or actually grinding your beans and you're drinking hot mold water with K-Cups, you're going to make America healthy again and the world's going to be great. But
I bought a single coffee machine, like a 1-cup thing, and I put in the filter and stuff like that in the grounds just because I'm a cheapie and I saved myself a lot of money.
It's good. Good guy.
Josh.
But I've been doing that the last month and a half, and I'm like, I kind of like the convenience of just the cup because I don't actually enjoy coffee and never have.
Yep.
You never? I love coffee. Black coffee.
I love coffee.
I always was a black coffee guy since I was like 16. Okay, Twilight Zone, Josh, you were up first.
So I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Hollywood actress Eva Longoria was so upset that Donald Trump got elected. She's like, I'm out. And unlike the other celebrities that fake like they're leaving the country, she's like, I'm doing it. I'm literally I'm gone. I'm in Europe now. I'm not coming back. And somebody, I think it was Lisa Marie Booth over at Fox News, just took her to task on it. Let's roll.
You want the clip? Yeah.
This is so good.
So she didn't. I want to point out one thing. Eva Longoria is a complete fraud. If you read the Marie Claire article that she did, the interview that she did, she's been gone. She's been living outside of the United States for years. She admits that she's been splitting time between Spain and Mexico, so she already left. Also, the reasons that it gets worse, Laura, the reason she cites that she left California, COVID, taxes, and homelessness. So she didn't escape Donald Trump's dystopia. She escaped Gavin Newsom's and the left-wing dystopia. And even worse, Laura, she goes out there and she advocates for these progressive policies that are going to shove those policies down the rest of Americans' throats while she flees. So she's a fraud, and that's why you should listen to.
That was awesome.
By the way, she was always an overrated actress anyway.
Yeah.
So. Wait, John.
Well, she's known for like
hit us with the line?
Real Housewives.
Can you hit
it's almost like they're lying.
What a fraud. Jeez. See ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
Bye.
At least she didn't
There
make an
is
announcement
actually,
on TikTok
though,
Live and got the lobster head
It
on.
costs like $2,500 or something like that to renounce your citizenship, when you want to leave the country and go somewhere else. I think, a nice little bipartisan gesture of unity, Donald Trump could waive that fee for all Hollywood celebrities who want, even though they could afford it, just like, you want to leave, go ahead.
Very nice.
Amy
Erica.
Schumer's headed to the UK. What's up? I'm
You're
going to
closet.
continue in the line of celebrities who love Kamala Harris. So this is one of my favorite stats to come out this week. It turns out that Taylor Swift's endorsement of Kamala Harris shifted young women 7 points towards Donald Trump. That's right. Taylor actually had the opposite effect, apparently, on young women as was intended. And this is yet another example of, speaking of Laura Ingraham as well, she had in her previous show, when she was doing podcast, like radio shows back in the early aughts, she had this line, she had this segment that was called Shut Up and Sing. and she would just feature Hollywood celebrities who were saying dumb things. So this is the new shut up and sing. So people don't want their celebrities to be telling them how to vote. They want them to just sing sad songs about their breakups with their boyfriends. That's it. Taylor Swift helping out Donald Trump. If you scroll down a little on the tweet too, there was a Quinnipiac University poll that confirmed this finding. So in every single age bracket, the question, does Taylor Swift's endorsement of Kamala make you more enthusiastic about her candidacy or less enthusiastic about her candidacy? Across every single age, it was less enthusiastic. So wow. Taylor actually was a dampening effect on all of that. Oh my gosh. I just, haters gonna hate. What can I say?
Well played.
Shut up and sing.
This has to be the death of the celebrity endorsement, right? In terms of politics.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I mean she overspent her $1 billion budget by $20 million.
I'm not saying it's not going to end. It's just that their perceived effectiveness is gone, right? Because Kamala Harris had all of the celebrities for the most part. All the biggest ones.
Hillary, and it didn't stop them from doing it again. I just
exactly. They're not going to look in the mirror and be like, "Gosh, maybe that didn't work." They're just going to try harder next time, and that's fine with me. Another thing. Can I do another one? Can I do another one?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
I was just going to say on the Taylor Swift point, she was 100% paid for that endorsement. I have no question she was paid for that.
Yeah,
she never said a word after.
$1 million. Yeah. That's ridiculous. Anyway. Other things that didn't work out for the Harris campaign, land acknowledgements. The Democrats love their land acknowledgements. The Democrats, they start off everything with a land acknowledgement. In Chicago at the Democratic National Convention, they acknowledged, I think it was at least 8 tribes. So basically they were acknowledging the land acknowledgement of the tribes who genocided the other tribes on the land that was Chicago, on which the Democratic National... But the most pro-Trump headline National Review racial demographic in 2024 was American Indians. That's right. Whoa. 65% of Native Americans said you can take your land acknowledgement and shove it where the sun don't shine. And they overwhelmingly went for Trump. Because what did the Biden-Harris administration do for the last 4 years? They basically said to Native Americans on their reservation land, you're not allowed to have control over your land and dig for fossil fuels. Like Native American reservation territory is sitting on oil. They are sitting on wealth that could turn around their communities. And the Biden-Harris administration said, nope, it's not your land. It's our land. You're not allowed to drill.
Wow.
And they said, take your stupid land acknowledgements and shove it up, and we're going to vote for Trump. 65%.
I guess these American Indians are going to be super happy that North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, who I'm glad is not the VP candidate, and we got Vance, but he's now he's going to be the head of the Interior, and he's going to open that up.
Praise the Lord.
You know what this means, right?
Tell me.
The Redskins need to return.
The Washington Redskins are back.
I don't know. I kind of like the new name, don't you? Like the Commanders. Nope. Then you can call them the Washington Commies.
No, it's so dumb. The Redskins should be back. We're putting Land O'Lakes guy back on the butter, and we're implementing Elizabeth Warren as the head of Indian relations for the country.
I'm very excited. Pocahontas
we're back, and I'm not tired of winning. There's some real change that needs to be done still. Thank you for that, Erica. So mine, I have relatives in Chicago. I'm connected to the area. And Trump continues to bring together people in ways that are yet to be found. But another one just happened. So Mayor Brandon Johnson, he somehow has become more unpopular than Lori Lightfoot, who I think was like the least popular before him. And so he thought that after running on a campaign promise of not raising property taxes, it'd be a good idea to hike property taxes by $300 million to try to pay for a $1 billion shortfall in Chicago. And I mean, I'm not even going to play this, but if you want to Google it, go for it. There's like a whole montage of him saying, I'm not going to raise property taxes. I'm not going to raise it. I'm not going to raise it. I'm not going to raise it. Sure enough, he runs around with this. So the city council voted on it. 50 city council members voted on this. Not a single one voted for this property
Not
tax increase.
one, to quote
Wow.
Jake Tapper. Not even one?
Not one. We're talking about
Brandon.
government politicians not voting to increase taxes. Not just none of them, like none of them did. This is shocking. I mean, you look
That
at
is
all the
shocking.
red here.
That is a rebuke.
Not a single one.
Yep.
That is saying,
Let's go,
hey,
Brandon.
no thank you, Mayor
Go
Johnson.
pound sand.
No thank you. Go pound sand. So it just is hilarious that I don't know what the solutions are in Chicago. There's many problems there. The solution is not going to be taxing. I mean, property taxes are so outrageous right now as it is. To raise it on Chicago with already high property taxes to try to make a shortfall of your insane aggressive spending is just truly, it's a strategy. It was a thought. It didn't work out. So we'll see what happens in Chicago.
Let's see if they can actually vote in some change, because they keep voting for these people.
They're going to keep voting for these people. I don't know. It's like, it's hard to say. It's like you keep voting them in. I don't know at what point are we going to stop with this pattern, but I mean, he's been a dud. So, and it's not like the Bears are any better. Not to throw any barbs where they got to be thrown,
That's some
but
shade.
you know, I don't know who's more unpopular right now, Matt Eberflus or Brandon Johnson. It's probably close, and all the Chicago people know what I'm talking about. But this has been a very fun episode. I think we need to do more controversial
Chestfeeding?
holiday takes.
Oh, holiday.
Chestfeeding was solid. I think maybe cut the nipple talk slightly. Reel
Yeah, that's
that
on
back
you,
just a little
bro.
bit. On me?
Yeah. You're like, let's tap the brakes on it, and then you talk about Jonas and all that stuff. Like, dude,
Yeah,
where are you going?
Yeah,
Stop.
look, it's out there. If people look,
Red flag.
it's a real phenomenon. I'm not gonna take your okay.
Like, we
Okay.
should- looks like a
Back
red
to
light.
the
coming on. We
holiday
should
takes.
stop and then hit the gas.
Last nipple talk, more holiday takes. We will adjust. We'll adjust as a program. This show is a lot of fun. Thank you guys for joining. We will be doing normal show is always on Monday. If you want to help out the program, you can join the Champions Club, catholicvote.org/champions. The best way to support us. We appreciate so much all of our champions here in the audience. You can join YouTube chat. We're live 11 a.m. Lots of people in the YouTube chat today. It was a lot of fun. This is probably the most chat message I've ever seen. You can come snoodle with the gang in the chat, and you can listen. But thank you to people listening on audio platforms. Leave us a review. Spotify, Apple Podcasts helps a ton. But of course, best thing you can do for us is pray for us. St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe, St. Fidelis. Pray for us. God bless everyone. We will see you guys locked and loaded on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend.